Welcome to the Lord and Richards Show, a program that will enable you to become more financially independent and prosperous from a biblical point of view. Tune in each week to learn how to prosper through good markets and bad. Now, here's our co-hosts, Colin Richards, your biblical investment advisor, and Dylan Schoonover.
Welcome, Colin. Great to see you, Dylan. Always good to be here on the Lord and Richards Show. We're going to have some fun today talking about the freedom of time. One of my favorites. We get to talk about what we like to do with our time in retirement. Most importantly, how we get to be able to have freedom of time. So I'm Dylan Schoonover. We are joined by CEO and founder Colin Richards of Lord and Richards. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So, freedom of time. Tell me about how we get to maximize our time in retirement. We're going to dive deep into this one, but just from a high level, how do we make sure we have the freedom to be able to do what we want when we retire?
As I like to say, Dylan, if you can get away from the job and have the freedom to do the things that you love with the people that you love for all the reasons that are important to you, then that's what we kind of define as retirement freedom, and that starts with getting free of the job. So you're going to have some income, you're going to have some financial instruments in place that are safe and reliable. There are a lot of vehicles out there that people depend on that I'm not going to call safe or I'm not going to call reliable. They're not abundant either. People rely on things like dividends. They rely on things like rental income. Those are great, but those are supplemental. So what I want to see is you have the same mental, flexible attitude that you had when you went on vacation in your working years, but now you're just on vacation all the time.
Unless you're vacationing, which is right down to the schedule, right?
Exactly. I'm a planner in every area of my life, and that includes my family travel. So my family likes to laugh about that a lot.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that from a company perspective as well. So tell me about some of the steps that have to be put in place to have freedom of time. Where would you start?
Well, again, if you've got the economics in place, then the next thing is to start thinking about what retirement looks like for you. You'd be surprised how many people go into retirement. They've never rehearsed this. You know, we've helped literally thousands of people to walk through this, but most people just get one shot. And so that's why having a guide and a network of people around you that help you retire gracefully and in a way that brings ultimate satisfaction is so important. And so I think being able to sit down and think about and have a conversation with somebody about your picture of an ideal retirement is so important. Some people express to me that they can't wait to spend more time with family. Others are ready to go off and just travel as a couple. And others want to sit in a kiddie pool at home sipping lemonade. You know, everybody's got a different vision.
So you're a dream builder, essentially.
Yeah, if you come into our offices, now we work with people all over the United States, and so you don't have to be in a physical location to take full advantage of what we do. But for those who do, you'll notice we don't have the news on, we don't have stressful things. We've got pictures of beautiful places, we've got serene scenes going on the television, because that's what it's about. It's about building a dream and then making that dream come true in reality.
So building a dream or working toward getting to beautiful places, I think that's a big deal because a lot of people do want to travel in retirement. A lot of people want to travel all over the world in retirement. And so that's a twofold thing. One, it's an exciting opportunity to be able to do the things you love with your time. But I think we need to back up and say, what steps have to be in place from the financial side of that to be able to do those types of things?
Yeah, so if you want to travel a lot, one of the things we've talked about in other segments is that we get, instead of what we might call a budget, we get a retirement freedom expense report. And just because people kind of chafe when you say budget, it feels constraining. But we actually encourage you, don't give us the pared down, super economical, this is the bare minimum, but give us a budget that fleshes out those dreams, and we insert that into your planning process. So if you say, well, we've got a special trip, for example, we're talking a little bit about travel, that we want to do next year, and we're going to go to, South America, or we're going to go on a special cruise or whatever, we actually put that into your plan and talk about the economics of that and how to make sure that happens. And so getting the economics in place is probably the hardest part up front, but afterwards it's incredibly easy because we're going to build a safe, reliable stream of income that you can use to fund not only the necessities of life, but the things that you would consider as fun, enjoyable, travel, vacations, and so forth.
Now, what if somebody says, that sounds great, we've built the plan, but what happens if the market takes a left turn?
Yeah, well, being on a beach somewhere and then seeing your vacation fund dry up before your eyes on your cell phone is not my idea of retirement freedom. And so we want you to be carefree, sitting there sipping a drink and enjoying your family, watching the grandkids play in the water, not stressing out over the market. So in our what we call barbell strategy, which we borrowed that term from Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, the money that you live on, the money that's going to give you the freedom of time, is safe and secure and not subject to the whims of the market. And then other monies are positioned in the market that you don't need to live on and that aren't critical, but allow you to just grow and build to do even more things down the road.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. When we're talking about time, it could be a drastic shift from the day. You talked in other segments about how you've been able to see people actually become emotional because you've been able to tell them you can retire today. And on the surface, that sounds amazing. And it probably is amazing. But once that happens, they've got a lot of time available all of a sudden. How do you go about setting a schedule to adjust to this new life?
Well, I think you bring up a great point, is people aren't used to living the retirement lifestyle until they start. And I actually go out on message boards, Reddit, and I read what people are saying, and they're literally asking, what did you guys do when you retired? What were things that you found fulfilling? And what we've discovered is if you don't think about it until the day you retire, you can actually enter a period that feels rough. And some people even go back to work because it feels so foreign. They're leaving their network of friends, acquaintances, people that they are used to seeing every single day. And now you're establishing a whole new network. So we encourage people to kind of start wading into the water early and having discussions, not just with other retirees, but with us about the activities and the things that our clients are enjoying so that they can kind of shortcut that process and get right off into the most enjoyable parts of retirement.
Yeah, that's perfect. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you define your retirement vision and how we come alongside you. This has been the Lord and Richard Show. We'll be back very shortly.
Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. That's 720-372-0400 for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Or check us out online at lordandrichards.com.
Welcome back from the break. Thank you for being with us on the Lord and Richards Show. I'm Dylan Schoonover, joined by Colin Richards, CEO and founder of Lord and Richards. Thank you for being here. We're talking about freedom of time, and one of the most important things that we've got to do is we've got to define a retirement vision for folks. And so a lot goes into that. Before the break, you were talking about, travel. You were talking about the elements of how we're able to have time to be able to enjoy it in retirement. But let's go about the steps to define that retirement vision, because a lot of people don't necessarily know what they're going to do when they get in retirement.
Right. And so, as I was saying before, getting out onto message boards are ways that I find out what people love doing. Some people enjoy sitting on boards or taking up new hobbies like gardening or even learning a foreign language or learning an instrument. So I encourage people before retirement to start exploring that, finding out what really causes you to relax, to feel fulfilled. In the retirement freedom landscape, there is a hierarchy of needs that kind of mirror some of the things that we were taught in school. And at the very top of that, once we've taken care of kind of our basic physical needs, we've made sure we got a safe place to live, we've got food, we've got, all the clothing, the necessities of life. Now we get into those higher areas which involve personal fulfillment, satisfaction, love, experiencing that and giving that. Those sit at the very top of the pyramid. And the people that I find, my clients, who most enjoy their retirements and express the greatest satisfaction are people who have achieved those things. And those things can be a little bit hard to find if you just go straight for them. What we find is you just start listing out, what do you love to do? Who do you love to be around? And then you start building a retirement plan around those ideals.
Yeah, and a lot of things can change in retirement as well. And so you talked about love, and you can be married, and we see it all the time, unfortunately, that sometimes the spouse passes. And so that can shift how time is used as well. How do you maintain, I think especially, between the sexes, it's different. What a woman and what a man wants in retirement don't always align exactly the same. Do you see some differences along those lines?
Yeah, well, a lot of times, if a husband and wife don't have the perfect alignment, they do kind of pursue separate enjoyment. One may continue working, which is kind of an interesting play, but they're really enjoying themselves. So that gives, let's say if the wife is continuing to work and the husband's staying at home, he's out golfing in the morning, and then they connect for the things that they enjoy doing later in the day. But what I more often see is that folks who are married tend to blend together their interests in retirement and find joy and satisfaction in being together while doing those things, going out to eat with friends. I have one client that they're part of an RV group that all kind of travels like gypsies around the country during certain seasons of the year, and they love doing that. I've got family members and relatives who are on that snowbird schedule, right? Where they're up at the lake in New York during the summer and they're down in Florida, all the cold weather months of the year. And so just finding a sweet spot of happiness and joy and fulfillment, and especially one that involves being around the people that bring you the most joy and to whom you can express the most joy, I find yields the greatest results in retirement.
Created a lot of good points there I hadn't thought about. One thing that I do notice a lot when you guys are meeting with clients, and it feels like any of the team feels this way, it's not uncommon that a couple is not necessarily aligned with risk. And so they've got different ideas of how retirement and how their time is going to go. How does Lord & Richards blend the two together? How do you bring people that are, I want to take all the risk in the world, and then somebody else comes in and says, I don't want to lose $1. Like, how do you bring that together?
Yeah, it's critical if we're going to have freedom of time, as I said earlier, to have stable, reliable, abundant income sources. And those need to come from investments that we might call more conservative. I say literally rock solid safe, a floor under your feet. You can never lose money. And people don't realize that that's available as a tool in retirement, but you can actually have assets that have no risk and use those to live off of that provide safe, reliable, abundant income so you never have to go back to work again. Because that's the goal. I never want to go back to work when I've retired unless I'm maybe going to engage as a volunteer or do something I truly love. So if a husband and wife aren't in agreement about how much risk they want, the cool part is in the barbell strategy where one side is risk-free and able to provide that abundant income, and the other side is aggressive, you kind of meet both needs. So if I've got a husband, or let's say that wants to take a lot of risk and just likes the excitement, and I've got a wife who says, well, excitement's great, but staying retired is more important, then we've got you covered because we can be as aggressive as you want on one side of the barbell, and on the other side, we can take care of those needs that allow you to experience the joy, love, and fulfillment without worrying about having to go back out of retirement into work.
Is your typical client like a lot of risk in their portfolio?
I would say because we talk to a lot of people who are preparing for retirement, maybe within 5 to 10 years or in it, the majority are not looking to take unnecessary risk. I think people have wised up about this and they've realized, you know what, I don't need a home run. What I need is base hits. I need to just move the ball forward, to use another sport analogy. And so rather than taking unnecessary risk, having portfolios that are extremely volatile, most people are just looking to make the money last throughout their lifetime and potentially leave a legacy. And for that, you don't need an incredible amount of risk.
Right. And the old concept was, well, we need to outpace inflation. But has the 3% or the 4% rule, has that changed? Do you look at that differently now?
Absolutely. William Bengen was a financial advisor who developed this theory in the 90s. He was confronting the reality that people didn't have pensions anymore, or very few did unless they worked for the government, like my dad, who retired from the Air Force and the police department. But apart from a pension, then people had to figure out a way to draw their money out of their portfolio that wouldn't cause them to run out before they run out of life. So we talk about never run out of money before you run out of life. Well, William Bengen did some research, and it's just one guy doing the best that he could and studied the markets prior to the 90s and came up with a theory that if you'll take 4% out per year and adjust each year for inflation, you'll never run out of money. Well, what happened after the 90s? Major crash in 2000, major crash in 2007 to 9. And as a result, people came back and revisited that rule and discovered, whoa, 4%, there's a high percentage of people that are going to run out of money. That's shocking to us because we think that's a low withdrawal rate, but actually they've revised that down to 2 to 3%. That means if you're a millionaire, you're living on 20 to 30,000 a year. That doesn't sound like a rich lifestyle. So we've had to come back and discard that theory in favor of better, more sustainable options like the barbell and being able to withdraw a sustainable income that will never run out no matter what.
Yeah, and 1% doesn't sound like a big deal maybe at the top of the mind, but when you actually look at the math, it's a real big deal. We talk about that in another segment with fees and how 1% makes a huge difference. And
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that would be a big situation. Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about how time is really nothing without money. Obviously, we need money to be able to facilitate time. So there's got to be a balance. And when we come back, we will talk about that.
Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. That's 720-372-0400 for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Or check us out online at lordandrichards.com.
Welcome back to the Lord and Richards Show. I'm Dylan Schoonover, and I'm joined by CEO and founder Colin Richards of Lord and Richards. Thank you once again for giving us such wonderful insight. As we went to the break, we said time means nothing without money. Obviously, money buys you freedom, and so we've got to talk a little bit about that. How do you keep the money investment egg strong so that you're able to do what you want, when you want, how you want?
Absolutely important, Dylan. Thank you. One of the keys is to take all the different potential sources of income and make sure they work harmoniously together. Most of our viewers and listeners are going to have Social Security as part of that. And it's a challenging subject. The rule book for Social Security is actually thicker than the tax code. And most people don't realize there's thousands of rules. Not the whole thing. But the good news is I've got PhDs in our corner that are actually called on by the IRS occasionally, or pardon me, by the Social Security Administration to answer questions. One of those is Lawrence Kotlikoff. Some of you can check out his column on PBS called Ask Larry. And so spending time with these kinds of experts has taught us that you can do all kinds of tricks, but if you don't spend the time to get your Social Security maximized and optimized for your situation, not something a calculator can figure out, but something that with an advisor we can help figure out. We can take your Social Security, blend that with your other investments, reduce taxes overall on that Social Security potentially and on your other investments, and thereby give you the strongest possible income to enjoy retirement to the absolute greatest extent possible.
And that can be a killer of time because sometimes people don't realize that Social Security can be taxed. And so tax efficient strategies are a big deal, especially before we get to that nasty word of RMD. Yeah. So required minimum distributions. How do we avoid, or how do we make sure that you set your clients up to be very tax efficient in retirement?
The key is preparation. I'm probably going to quote a good friend of ours that we both know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes.
And waiting till the last minute when the IRS says, here's a gun to your head, you're 73 years old, give me your money, that's probably not the best approach. So we as early as possible, if we start meeting with people in their 20s and 30s, we will get you on a pathway to try to reduce or eliminate taxes in retirement. I tell people, if you think you're grumpy about taxes now, wait until you're 70 or 80 years old. You're going to be very grumpy about taxes. And so the optimal, which this is something that can only be done if you start really early, is to have an entirely tax-free retirement. And the cool part is that can be done. Now, usually we're talking to people who are coming to us after accumulating money for years, often in tax-deferred vehicles. And that means you've pushed that tax burden down the road. Well, we're going to want to kind of jump in there. And even if we're in our 60s or 70s, we're going to start developing strategies to move that money from forever taxed to never again taxed. We usually do that gradually. We can do that through Roth conversions or through other tax-free or tax-efficient vehicles, but we want to not be surprised at 73 and all of a sudden now we're just having to take out money whether we want to or not and get taxed on it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound any fun. And just for those who are joining us today, if they're unclear, what is a tax-deferred vehicle? What type of investments do we have there?
Yeah, typical ones are your 401k at work. So you put money in, your employer puts money in, and you don't pay taxes on it then. You pay taxes on what we call the harvest later on after it's grown. We like to pay taxes on the seed, so we encourage you to use a Roth 401k if your employer offers it. You pay taxes now on the money before it goes in, but if you do it right, you never pay taxes again on the harvest. In addition, you can invest in an individual retirement account. Nonprofit organizations have 403Bs and other types of tax-deferred investments.
Roth sounds good. Pay the taxes now. Is the mindset that taxes could potentially be higher later? Is that the thought process?
Well, we get to talk to clients every single day, and we poll them, and we ask a simple question. It's this: are we currently in a low historical tax environment or a high one? A lot of people think we're in a high tax environment, but the truth is, since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act went into effect, we're in some of the lowest brackets we've seen in a generation. So I tell people, when you go out shopping, do you like to buy things that are on sale, marked down 70% off, or do you like to pay full price? Well, right now, taxes are on sale. So we encourage our clients today to take advantage of these low rates and get those taxes out of the way forever at a time of your choosing, at a rate of your choosing, and in a way that sets you up when taxes eventually go up, which we think they will. You're not paying taxes at an exorbitant rate.
Are you saying that there's a few unfunded liabilities in this country?
The word unfunded liability is a big word or expression because there are all kinds of expenses out there that people don't realize the government is committed to, for which there is no plan yet to pay for. Things like future Social Security payments, things like your Medicare and other entitlement programs. There's really no plan to pay for it. It's made up every year. And people have tallied those up into the tens of trillions of dollars. And that's all waiting for us down the road.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear around that. Could Social Security payments go away?
So my advice is to not think of it as going away. I know some people will walk in our office, and we're happy to do this, and say, hey, don't use Social Security in my plan, and we'll do that and view it as supplemental. Most of us, though, are looking at Social Security as one of the pillars of our retirement. What we should expect are continued modifications. Back when Social Security was started, full retirement age was older than life expectancy. Nowadays, people, if they retire and start taking benefits early, say 62, could be expected to live in excess of 25 years on those benefits. So the plan has had to adapt and adjust. Nobody wants benefits to go away. And frankly, if you're a politician and you're the one who's sitting in your seat when those benefits go away, your career is going to end. So there's bipartisan support to continue the benefits, but expect older retirement ages, expect higher potential taxes on Social Security benefits, expect lower inflation increases on future benefits, all ways of saving money and making that system last longer.
Yeah, so probably not going to go away in your lifetime, retiree, but might see some things reduced potentially is what you're thinking.
Exactly. So when we build a comprehensive retirement freedom plan, we are conservative on our Social Security expectations. We certainly will use that as a key pillar, but we're not expecting huge cost of living increases. So we map that at a pretty low rate. And we make sure you have backup income sources so that that's not your sole source of income. That's what we call living on a fixed income. I'm a pastor as well as a financial advisor, and I've had widows say, hey, I live on a fixed income. That means they're only getting Social Security. We don't want that, right? So we need your investments to team up with Social Security to give you an abundant lifestyle.
Sure. And I mean, it's good that Congress would never tell us one thing and change their mind, right? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
I believe in 1913 is when taxes were enabled, and they said it would never go above 10%, right? Well, they kept that promise. So,
yeah, exactly.
So my point of that statement, though, a little bit of humor aside, is that how do you make sure to encompass in the plan that you build for your clients the unknowns? Because you do the best you can to make sure that you've built a perfect plan for someone, but there are unknowns of what the government will or won't do. So how is there an insulation barrier that you kind of do with Lord & Richards that insulates that plan?
Yeah, the first thing is we run 10,000 scenarios of your retirement. You mentioned the risk that the government could change Social Security. So we can back that up using our barbell strategy, using safe assets that can provide additional income support. But there's other risks like market volatility. And so we will run 10,000 scenarios of real market volatile portfolios and test your portfolio against that. And as a result, we can raise the probability that no matter what comes your way, no matter what gets thrown at you during retirement, whether it's tax increases, whether it's market volatility, whether it's changes to your benefits, or even severe healthcare crises that cost a lot of money, your plan will withstand the test of time.
Thank you, Colin. Always insightful information. Appreciate having you here on the Lord and Richard Show. And we thank you all for joining us. It's been a wonderful time talking about the freedom of time. If you have any further questions, be sure to give us a call or visit our website at lordandrichards.com. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. That's 720-372-0400 for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Or check us out online at lordandrichards.com.
Take the first step toward securing your financial future. Request an appointment today. Whether you're planning for retirement, managing your wealth, or optimizing your business finances, we're ready to help you achieve your goals. Visit us online at lordandrichards.com for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Investment advisory services offered through Lord and Richards Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor.